All right. How many times have you heard this in the private sector? Our clients who come in absolutely love us, but people who haven't come in yet don't know what we do. They have no idea what we do or how we're different. We just need to get people in the door and they're going to love it.
I haven't heard it be worded in that manner, but I see that. I see that a lot, and it's tough.
Pointers.
Coaching voice, Phil. Come on.
So, every time, like it's weird how not coaching every day just takes away your chops. So then I go and teach. I teach for a week, and then I come home and I'm like, I can't talk. Like I can't do anything. Like my throat hurts, my head hurts, my ears hurt. Like I can't. Even like being in a gym that's just like pumping music, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of loud. Like you're just not used to being in that environment all the time anymore.
Oh man,
and it's lame.
You're getting soft.
It makes you feel soft as hell.
You're getting soft. That's what it is.
You
gave it your all. Appreciate that. You know.
I put it all out there. I feel like a dorky librarian or some shit. Like just like nothing. Just fallen so far.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to bust out the coach voice, man.
I don't know. I feel like you have a natural coach voice, though. Like you and G.
G's got a great coach voice. When he busts that thing out, scares me.
Yeah. So
plus a little fear.
Like you just go hoarse. I just soft. Like I just very low. You know. Come on.
Do you pick it up? Wait, do you pick it up in your classes? Like, say you got a group of 20. Like, are you letting that thing off? Are you screaming? Are you yelling?
I am. A lot of times I'm quiet. Like y'all gotta come in, and they'll come in. Like I have my phone for the volume. Like I'll turn it down. Like so they know I talk low, but then because I want to use it very strategically, you know.
Yeah.
If I'm yelling or talking loud, I'm like, oh, he's talking loud. So
that's a good. That's a good manipulating your volume, your intensity to change their urgency.
Yeah, save your energy. Save your energy.
Can't burn it all in session one.
No. But yeah, it's I gotta get it up. I feel like every time I start this pod, I'm like, "Hey Phil, how you doing right now?" So
I don't know if we talked about. I think the trick is warm water. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did. And I got cold ass water right now. It's the opposite of what you recommended.
I know you're trying to say hydrated, but this isn't about hydration. This is about having a silky vocal cord.
Okay,
sound like Luther Vandross on here. That's what we want. That's what we need. The quiet storm on this podcast. Ooh. Just good sensation for the ears.
Don't worry, we won't be singing here. We sing.
Oh my goodness. Well, speaking of teaching a course, we got to hang out together. Just didn't do any content. Maybe one day we'll do in-person content together. We'll see. But still need to figure out the IRL Pushin Performance episode recording strategy this year. We'll figure it out. We'll get one. We'll get one. We'll figure it out. We just had other matters to tend to that were work related. But a lot of great ideas, a lot of great questions were asked from the group. And one big thing that we came away thinking about and wanting to talk more about was this idea of setting expectations or setting your clients and understanding your clients' expectations. And I think, we were talking before the show, this is something that is unbelievably important, regardless of what environment you work in, right? I mean, I think people can clearly see the importance working in an environment where there's like sales involved and people have other options. So specifically talking about private sector sport performance, corporate wellness, personal training, the list goes on. But then even in a collegiate setting, where your athletes don't have other options. They have to come to you. Managing, understanding, and setting expectations at every level from the top down, I think is very important to talk about, very important to think about. So that led us to here. Now starting to unpack this a little bit and hopefully leave y'all with some valuable insight and some valuable questions.
No, this is gonna be good. I think it's like Phil said offline, it's not really often talked about, and I'm curious to understand why. Like that's an odd thing to me. Like we don't really see that in the feed and in the field. At least in my personal feed, like goal setting, client expectations, like everything that comes with the understanding of the session at hand, or the relationship of the coach to client. For some reason, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the wrong algorithm, but yeah, I think it's definitely worth having a conversation about, and hopefully, just we could come out of this with more questions for us on just how to keep pushing that P.
How to keep it pushing, man.
Gotta keep. But why do you think it's not talked about?
I don't know. I think like it depends on what circle you're running. Like again, there's a lot of dichotomies, and it feels to me as if there's a super sales driven side of the industry where it's how can we generate leads, how can we generate sales, how can we close deals, how can we upsell, yada yada yada. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. These are just buzzwords that I've heard before. I'm not on that side of the industry. And then there's the side of the industry where we hang out, which is just nerds talking about nerdy shit. You know what I mean? Like, can we talk super deep about physiology and psychology and you know all the things that actually lead to adaptation, all the things that drive outcome? You know, that's where we kind of play, generally speaking. That's where we kind of live, generally speaking. And coming out of college, I think college inherently sets us up for that. Right, we're going through anatomy and physiology, we're going through sports psychology, we're going through kinesiology, we're going through physics, we're going through biomechanics, and that kind of pushes us into this side of the field where now it's like, all right, this is the stuff that matters. Let's go deeper and deeper and deeper into that, and that's super valuable, unbelievably valuable. But you know, two things can be true, and I think the other side of the industry matters as well. Again, regardless of where you're at, it's just for whatever reason, like I think that's something I think should probably be included in more collegiate exercise science programs, right? Whether at the undergrad level or at the master's level. I don't know what personal training schools look like. I don't know what strength and conditioning schools look like, but like a majority of those, it feels like a majority of those graduates are like leaving and either going into like corporate wellness or personal training, maybe medical, but it's either falling out of the industry or doing something where they need to be able to sell.
Yeah, for sure. And I think selling is the key, right? Like first, I would guess the false dichotomy happens of selling is because of the word. Like us in this side of the field, I feel like everybody's like, oh, I don't want to sell. I don't want to do that. That's why I'm in this corporate wellness space, or that's why I'm not there where I'm selling training. But at the end of the day, like something I've been trying to get better at is like we are all selling, and if you boil it down to, it's like selling your thoughts, your information, to make sure that the person across from you is buying. Buying meaning they're learning, they're understanding, they're intaking that information. So I think selling and buying is literally just human to human, and especially with our field, we have to understand like it's communication at the end of the day, right? How do we set expectations? How do we listen to goals and start to sell our methods, our training philosophies, so that client or clients can buy it, right?
Clip it, put it on IG right now.
It's on there. Reel it up, baby. But why? Me, you were very, very passionate about it. But why does it matter? Why is it like even something that is worth talking about in your opinion?
This is kind of the big the way we end the conversation when this question kind of came up during the course we were teaching together, the idea that expectations dictate experiences, right? Your expectations of a product, of a class, of an interaction with another person dictate your experience, right? With said product, person, conversation, et cetera, right? So thinking about your members going into your sessions, your athletes coming into your weight room, again, this is universal in the field. It could be a physical therapy patient coming into your clinic. This is universal in the field. Their expectations dictate their experience, right? So if they have expectations, this is going to be X and it ends up being Y. So oftentimes in my career, especially with adults and general population, coming to my class expecting this to be like a Barry's boot camp, good old fashioned ass kicking. And we're just going to like do burpees and mountain climbers and jump around and run around and get all tired. And then it's not that. On paper, it could have been, they could have felt great. Could have been a great workout, intelligently programmed, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But it was misaligned with their expectations. So they're like, that kind of sucked. This coach is easy, whatever. I'm not coming back. Like, this isn't for me. Like, this is kind of a waste of time. This isn't a good workout. So understanding expectations, having a strategy for communicating and managing expectations goes a long way in improving their experiences, improving how much time they spend with you, improving people returning back to you. And I think there's a couple levels, like if you want to get super deep with it, we probably won't get, spend too much time here, but thinking about like buy-in, right? And not just buy-in from like a conversion on sales standpoint, but like buy-in and the power that your psychology has on adaptation. If I'm bought in, if I believe in the program, I'm going to have better outcomes. And then at a micro level, like daily, if I can set clear and unambiguous goals and expectations for each session, well, then I can start to, build in individual flow and group flow, which probably leads to higher intensities, which leads to better feelings during the session, which leads to better adaptation, right? So, at every level, I think this is super important. And again, like, even saying that and thinking about, what you asked earlier, like, why are we not talking about this stuff way more often?
It's interesting because I think of goal setting when you say expectations, and goal setting from a macro level. Mm-hmm. I think we all know is important. We sit down with the client one-on-one. All right, what's your goals? But now we can start to look at this specific to the session itself, which is what you're referring to. Like, what is the goal of this class?
Yeah.
And if normally, in a group setting, they come to you or they come to the class, but not everybody's going to be telling you like, hey, I want to lose weight. I want to, get stronger. Like, unless you really have a good relationship with everybody, but as a collective,
yeah,
there's no goal that they're giving you. So you have to set that, you have to set that expectations. So then they know what to leave with, like you mentioned. And for me, like, this didn't really click in my head until I started to lose people. I started to lose clients, lose people. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm smart, bro.
Yeah. This class is bomb, dog. Why are you leaving?
This program is on point, yo. Trash. What are you doing?
Look at this progression.
Right?
It's undulating.
It took me hours Sunday night. Why aren't you showing up? But then I took a yoga class, one time, and I took it regularly. And then in the beginning, they set intentions. They literally say, hey, let's set intentions for this class. Right. And then that gave me the frame of what I'll be doing throughout class. Why are we in a different? Why should we be in a different of setting expectations?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's, for me, I was like, why didn't I think of that?
So you're saying like with that, with yoga class, was that just like was that aspect, did that make that experience for you way more positive? Like setting intention for the session and then understanding, what you're coming into it with.
Positive, and like it made me feel fulfilled because that's something that I wanted to leave with, because that's what they gave me the goal to leave with, right? If it was my first time in a yoga class and they're just like, all right, let's do this move, like I'll feel good, I'll feel loose. But then if somebody says like, hey, I want you to feel focused, I want you to feel refreshed, I want you to leave all this stuff outside of that, that gives me that framework to make sure I'm locked in that class. Right. And same with the group classes. Like now I'm starting to do that a little bit more. And then like, hey, these are the feelings that I want you to get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes we'll get beat up. Sometimes I want you to feel fresh. Like I want you to feel fresh.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't even know how they should feel.
Yeah.
After a workout, right? And then to your point of the whole Barry's bootcamp thing, that's one feeling. Like that's one output that people normally attribute to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, that's so good. I wasn't even thinking about like the times that I've gone to like a random class with friends or like worked out with a buddy and they ran me through a workout like that I was not accustomed to, right? Like going to a hot yoga class and expecting one thing and then getting worked. So I remember going when my wife was teaching reformer Pilates and going to a Pilates class and expecting one thing and getting slammed. Have you ever done reformer Pilates?
I've done it once.
Slammed.
Yeah, that thing was shaking.
Slammed, dude. I mean, no bullshit. 30 seconds in, I was like, oh fuck. Like, this is bad. I'm gonna die here today.
You come in there like, I'm fit, I got this. Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna show these women what the vibes is. And I'm on my knees planking, like
it's tough. But yeah, like you said, like did was it Kelly teaching that?
So yeah, Cal did. So like this is where we get into like some individual clients' expectations. Me just being an ass and thinking I was, super strong, super in shape. I'm a beast, yada yada yada. I'm not. Cal said, "Hey, this is gonna hurt. Like this is gonna be really hard for you." And I want you to like, no matter what, this is gonna be really hard for you. But I want you to like move at your own level. Don't look at anybody else. Like you are here. This is your individual session. Treat it as such. Blinders on. Yada yada yada. Start slow. All great stuff. Then the way the class is set up, it's there's not a lot of individual coaching once you get into it. It's kind of just like running through the session. It's kind of that style. It was that style of delivery. But I did not take heed to those warnings. So my expectation was still, I'm a beast. I'm really fit. I'm going to do great.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, I mean, when you say individually, that's kind of like what your expectations was for yourself.
Yeah.
In a group class, what do you think is like the universal expectations people have from that lens, other than getting beat up from like a Barry's bootcamp?
Yeah, I think about it from like a sales perspective. Like, what does everybody kind of want from any product or service that they might buy? So if I'm going to a barbershop, if I'm going to a mechanic, if I'm going to a strength coach for training, those are all services. What are some across the board things that people just generally want? Right? You could bank on these things being true most of the time. Right? So people want to be heard, they want to be valued, and they want to be appreciated. Like top to bottom, they want to be understood. They want to be listened to. Right? So that's a big piece that I think we talk about in the field. Right. So that's something that I think do a fairly good job of at least more and more talking about in the field. From there, it's how can we make this entire process, start to finish, sign up to walking out of the door after your first workout, as frictionless as possible. Just making things easy, removing barriers. I think that can only be positive. From there, looking at return on investment. Right. And this is where we start to tiptoe into the waters of individualized, but whether you're spending time, whether you're spending money, or some form of emotional investment, whatever, you want a return on that. So you want to get value for whatever you've invested in the product or service. And this is where we start to bleed into some of the more individualized client expectations.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that return on investment, because at the end of the day, like if it's a free class in a corporate setting, or if it's a paid class in a non-corporate setting, like the investment that they have is the time they're putting in that class itself, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even think about like that, because now it goes to what they're getting out of it, right? And to what I mentioned earlier is we have to give them options of what those can look like.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is sometimes I want my class to feel more flexible, right? Feel more mobile. These are the words that I would say in both on a one-on-one and a group session. Right? I want you to feel like we're sweating today. Or I want your muscles to burn. Like those kind of things, they can start to attribute to what the expectations can be. Not just, hey, we're gonna work hard. Yeah, we're gonna work hard, but like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
We should work hard even on a light, mobility session type of day, regardless of what it is. So I think starting to unpack that and really give people like a feeling of out of it that you want them to get out of it as they come into it, I think is really key. And there's a lot to unpack within that, but just like, what is the investment, or what are the return of investment of time that they're putting into that? I like a lot. So that's good.
Yeah, let's stick with corporate fitness, because I think we spent a lot of time there. I think that's an interesting case study in this conversation of managing and understanding expectations. And I always thought, by the end of my career coaching daily in corporate fitness, I was thinking like, how could we run a class? How could we run a facility that's so good that clients would pay for it? Right? Like if something changed and they had to pay $150 a month for this facility, they would still do it. And understanding expectations then became a big part of that. So we talked about some universal pieces, things that are probably true across the board. Again, not an exhaustive list, but a great starting point. But then switching gears to individual client expectations, like what are some things that you think start to shape each person's individual feelings about a class, a coach, a goal?
I think their training age matters. Where have they came from? Like, are they coming in for the first time ever in a workout session, or are they a former athlete? I think those things matter to understand how to speak to those things. But for me, like on an individual setting, I think it's easier to talk about that goal setting framework and mindset of like, okay, the whole why. Like, I personally don't like the why thing, because there's a lot of ways to ask why. But I think understanding that the goal that they come in with sometimes is not like the goal that they even actually do want to come in with. If it's say, for example, body composition, everybody wants to look good in the mirror. I'd be lying if they don't. Right. So I think giving them goals, like what are some new goals that they didn't even know they can work towards, as their relationship builds. So I think that starts to build expectations for each session. Right. Because if you're like a one-on-one session, if you're taking a client on January, working on body composition, weight loss, and 8 months in, you haven't checked in with them and said, it in a way of like, is this still your goal? Not like that exact question, but like, I think you're doing them a disservice. There has to be regular check-ins and starting to give them the pieces of like, these are things that you can potentially work on outside of just weight loss and then body composition. So I think from an individual's client setting, expectations, that the goal setting matters even more. But yeah, what are your thoughts when it comes to one-on-one?
Yeah, no, I like the goal setting piece. Real quick, do you think, like, do you do or help clients, or how do you help clients find a way to formulate this question that in a way that actually makes sense? And I'm off to a rough start. How do you help clients understand and manage their expectations specific to like a goal timeline, right? So I'm sure you've had clients come in, and I think again, this is a mismanagement of expectations, a misalignment of expectations, and this is why these clients don't stick around, or one of the reasons why these clients don't stick around, where it's like, I'm coming in, I want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months and completely 180 my lifestyle, so on and so forth. How do you have that conversation and try to get them to, tamper their expectations, change their expectations to, be a little more bought into the program and what you're trying to do?
I think that's the magic. Right? That's the magic of coaching in itself. But from a goal setting standpoint, like for me, I personally started to believe in being more directionally correct than like being correct at the goal itself. Meaning, if body composition is the goal, all right, let's work towards those things, and knowing that the output we can't control. Like, if I want to lose 20 pounds, we'll do the things that can get us to lose 20 pounds, but the only things we can control is the inputs. Like, what are the actual things to lose to lose 20 pounds, right? So for me, I'm constantly saying that, like, 20 pounds, if it comes off, it comes off, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make sure we do the things that we're gonna do anyway to make it come off, but we have to focus on what those things are, like, the whole behavior change, the atomic habits, all those things, whatever reference you want to use. But at the end of the day, like, those inputs are what matters within the goal setting. Like, here are the things, here's what to expect within this week, within this month, within this 3-month setting time frame, right? So that's kind of where my thought is when it comes to goal setting. And it's the magic of how you communicate that. Like, that's the toughest part.
Yeah, that's a banger. Being directionally correct. I love that. Love that. That's good. Clip it.
Bar? Clip it.
Clip it. Reel it in.
Okay. Going back to your thought process when it comes to individual client expectations.
Yeah. Again, thinking about it from a sales perspective, and I'm a terrible salesman. Because again, like you said up top, that word feels yucky to me. It makes me feel like a used car salesman selling someone something that they don't need and they can't afford, when in reality we're doing the opposite of that. But I think a lot of this, and again, back to, we'll stick with corporate fitness to start, where either it's a very cheap or a free offering for employees and you're running the fitness center. It's going to be, the individual experience going to be based on kind of two major things in my eyes: looking at their experience with similar quote unquote products, and then other people's reviews or thoughts about what the class is, right? About what your philosophy is, or about what the gym's like, right? So thinking about their experiences with similar products, and this is super important to uncover. I like that you brought up training age. That's going to fall and kind of dictate some of this stuff as well. But how do you view fitness? Like, how do they view fitness, right? Are they viewing a good workout as a workout that kills them? Are they viewing strength work as something that's bad for them or inherently challenging? Are they viewing themselves as like a cardio only person? Are they viewing you the same as Orange Theory, as Barry's, as CrossFit, as like, are they viewing everything under the same workout bucket, right? Like, how do they view other quote unquote similar products, even though we know you probably have a pretty distinctly different product, but you might not have positioned yourself in their eyes as a distinctly different product. Right. And that's why, again, I'm always finding ways to bring up positioning, because I'm obsessed with this concept after I heard about it. On the knowledge, we'll link it's April Dunford. We'll link the Knowledge Project episode in the show notes, because I've listened to it like 3 times. But this idea of how do your clients view your product? Like, what do they think it does? right? How are you positioning yourself in the market, to show, why you're the best in your area.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a big piece, is we're not doing enough to position ourselves differently. And when we, at least in my experience, when I've tried to, I'm using language that people don't understand. So then I have to rely on other people's reviews. Hence why I guarantee you walk into a gym right now and you ask them, what is your biggest driver of sales? They will say word of mouth. I guarantee you they will say corporate fitness, private strength and conditioning, personal training, word of mouth, because some of it is a positioning issue. Like, you're not that you can attract all clients. You can't attract everybody, but how could you attract the right clients for your philosophy, your style, your classes?
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. I like that a lot. I think I'm thinking of branding now. Since we're in this frame of selling and product, like brand of who you are is the key.
Yeah.
Right? If we're still sticking with this corporate wellness environment, the brand that you bring is what people will be attracted to. Right.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, who are you outside of the class too?
Yeah.
Like, are you walking around doing the opposite of what you're preaching? Right.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you uphold yourself? Those kind of things. That's your brand. Like, on your social media, if it's public, I'm sure if I took somebody's class, I'm like, who's this dude? Right.
100%. People find you on IG.
Yeah. So that's who you are.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a matter of like being somebody you're not. Like, at the end of the day, be who you genuinely are, but your brand is everything associated with you. So for when you say like reviews and then word of mouth, like for me, I think something that I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Be like, oh, go JT's people. People in my class, I'd be like, oh, go JT's class because he's so chill, he's so calm. And I think when I first heard that, I started to actually be more chill and calm.
Yeah, just lean into it.
Just lean into it. But at the end of the day, like, I think that's who I am. So I think understanding that first would be key. Like, what is your brand? Like, who are you? Both in and out. Got to be consistent.
I think that's a really good example of how, like, branding and positioning working together, right? So like branding being who you are, what you're about, your quote unquote personal brand, and positioning being kind of like what you do, how you do it, what this is going to do for you, how is this distinctly different from other things. That together, boom, now we have interest in the brand, you as a person, and then understanding and managing of expectations, better managing of expectations, right? So again, I think it's one of the hard things about corporate fitness. Like, I never thought about this till right now in this moment, but the expectations are insane. Like, let's say you have 5,000, that's a massive number. Let's say you have 1,000 potential employees that sit on a campus. They could come to use your facility for free. And let's say the client expects like a 50% penetration rate. So 500 people are coming and using the facility. Do you know how much that facility has to offer for 500 people to want to come and use that? Like, that's so many different people with so many different needs that I think it's easy to end up just kind of like shooting in the middle and doing something that's kind of like for you as a coach, versus maybe having, maybe a little less penetration, way better outcomes, and then having some maybe specialty offerings. Like, you have a yoga instructor, you have a spin instructor, so you're getting those people. But then for your stuff is, hey, this class is about getting strong and feeling strong.
Yeah.
This is, no one else is doing this in the area. This is not Orange Theory. This is not Barry's boot camp. We're not on that stuff. We're progressing. We're intelligently putting load on you. And like, yes, you're gonna miss some people. You're gonna lose some people. But can the overall outcomes be better and experience be better for everyone else who's actually staying on with you?
Yeah. And I think to go back to that, like you're gonna lose some people, but you should only feel good about that if you have set expectations. You're on brand with who you are and why people are coming there, because at the end of the day, those are things you can't change. Like, hey, these are things that I'm gonna have you expect throughout the class, and if they're like, it's not for me, it's not for them.
Right? That's okay.
That's
okay.
So, and then like to lean in onto the universal expectations, like you mentioned, like who you are, that the reason why people should come to class is going to be because you make them feel heard. You make them feel appreciated and valued. Like those are three things that I hope everybody leaves us with how do I make sure I can do that? Like how do I make sure I get my people to feel heard, appreciated, and valued? For me, like I would hate to have somebody in my class and be like, I come here because his workouts are crazy. No. For what? Like, what is that going to do?
What?
That doesn't make them feel valued. All that stuff, like, appreciated and heard. So I think understanding that, like, why people come to you with expectations is because of who you are as a coach. And, you're setting expectations not only in that session, but also in the multiple sessions that are coming with you for however many times.
Yeah. I think it's like, the heard, valued, appreciated, the return on investment, non-negotiables. Minimally, you got to check that box. Like that's the bar that you got to get over. That's the minimum. And then everything else you can do above that becomes bonus. Makes things better, easier for you. So with that in mind, like how can we better set expectations or better help set expectations for clients coming in? And I guess a little two-part, like how can we start to think about changing people's expectations about what we do?
That's tough. I think first it starts with your brand. Like, what do you believe in? Who you are. Like if you're the type to really believe in the outcomes that are produced from Barry's bootcamp class, that's your expectation. Set them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a different conversation of whatever our opinions are on that. But I think just it goes back to your brand first. How do you be genuinely who you are? Now, does it play into the session itself? So communication throughout the time of them with you is what matters. Like it can't happen in just one session, right? Whatever their expectation, even if you say, hey, 20 people, I want to make sure you feel fresh and not dead after this. And like you said earlier, some might leave, but then some might stay because you believe in the importance of feeling fresh, getting out of fresh. I can go to work now. That's what they're there for, corporate wellness selling. So I can go to work now, feel and work better. And then throughout that, now you're starting to change like their expectations before of what fitness can be. And so for me, that's kind of like how I've been playing around with the education part of it. How do I educate with how they feel per session? And it takes time. It takes time, that trust relationship. So well, what is your lens on that?
I think the corporate wellness piece is interesting. It's like super interesting to think about with this because it's inherently constrained. Like your market is what your market is. You're not going to get more like, there's no new leads really because, there's the employee population. Like, yes, there's attrition. Yes, there's new hires, but there's not like massive swings unless there's like a big layoff or something like that. But like, it's not massive swings in the influx of potential customers coming to your facility. So I think part of it is, is there a product market fit, quote unquote, for like a style of training? And there might not be. Like if you want to run, movement skill, plyometric, full blown, always an athlete style training, and you might be in an employer or a site that has mostly older populations of people who just aren't into that, then you might not have a fit, and that's okay. Right now, like, hey, it's not a positioning issue. Well, it's a positioning issue because it's not what people want. So I think that's, I think there's an expectations on our end too. But I love what you said about education and the fact that it takes time. Like it's going to take time. It might be a slow process. It's going to be like a relearning thing, especially if they're already coming to you. Like I think about, when in North Carolina we were working with a group of NFL free agents at 9 a.m. and then we had a semi-pro soccer team come in at 10:30 a.m. And they'd always see the end of the NFL free agent training session and then be like, "See, coach, you're trying to train us like NFL athletes. Wrong football. I kept saying that all the time. The worst. And historically, especially soccer, so European soccer doesn't want to train in the weight room like that. So it was like, all right, how can we start to educate them over time in a way that makes sense? Cool. How can we get key stakeholders, quote unquote, within the group to buy in? Cool. Like all these things over time better position us as coaches to the group as subject matter experts, as people who genuinely care. Again, because we're meeting that bottom. We're meeting the non-negotiables. We're showing up. We're consistent. We care. We're listening. Like that's getting met. And then slowly educating over time. Right. And I think one thing that helped a ton was asking them, what do you expect to get out of this training? Separately. Like, what do you expect to get out of training with us? And then from there, it's really easy to start to unpack that and say, hey, this stuff right here, you might think is silly. Give me 2-3 weeks because this is going to lead to what you want. Right. And again, it's never perfect. It's never that easy, but it at least allows you to be, like you said, more directionally correct.
Yeah.
At least I'm in the ball. Now we're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Right. Of what you want.
Right. And like in those conversations, I've been in those conversations. I say, hey, what do you want to get out of these sessions? A lot of times they'll give you the surface level answers, which is okay. Weight loss, body composition, get stronger, be more flexible. And those things you have to take. You have to understand, like, that's literally what they want. But it's going to be valuable even for us to know, like, hey, what are some things or to ask ourselves, what are some things that they don't know what they want? Like, if they come to you with weight loss and they didn't know that they can feel stronger, let's do that over time, right? And then start to tie those pieces in, like, hey, you just got stronger. And now they have something in their head, like, oh, shoot, I did get stronger. I came here for weight loss, but I want to get stronger now. So I think just understanding those conversations, if they have very little answers to give you, opportunity to actually give them things to work on. Right. And then this whole piece, like when you're saying about what you're talking about with wants and needs, in our industry, everybody always says, give them a little bit what they want, and then we'll give them what they need. Right. But what does that like actually look like in your programming? And I know people know it, people say it. For me, how do I? I try to ask myself, like, how do I get them to now convert that? Like the things that I'm giving them with what they need is something that they know that's what they want.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And we can't just give them the candy.
You have to change that. Right.
Yeah. And yeah, it's going to be on our part. If the things that they want is going to be a year later and that's still what they want, like that's and we don't see value in it at all.
Yep.
There's some room for education there, right? If they 100%. Like bicycles, do bicycles. But then if you start to give them, an understanding of the core of other ways to do so, like they might actually want those things now. right? And then yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Like whenever I hear that now, like give them what they want, we'll give them what they need. You know, like what does that actually look like? Are you actually doing that?
That's so good, because I think a lot of times the conversation stops there.
Yeah.
So typically for me, it's like, hey, we're doing 10 minutes of warm up, 30 minutes of strength work, and then I'll just like let you do something silly for 10 minutes and get all tired. Is typically what that has looked like for me and the clients and classes and things that I've done in the past for athletes as well too. Because I've had athletes who like to feel like they've worked. But what I didn't do is what you're saying, or what I didn't do well is what you're saying, where it is now, how can we educate them enough where they want what we think they need? And they don't want that stupid stuff anymore, right? They don't want the stuff that's pulling them in the wrong direction anymore. And again, the conversation typically stops at, hey, we give them what they want and a little bit of what they need and yada, yada, yada. But like, no, let's start there and then start to make hay a little bit. Let's make change. Let's educate.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't be afraid to educate your clients.
Don't. That's the tough part. Like, I think a lot of us are, especially if we're younger in the field. But if you genuinely think the things that they want are detrimental to their goals, or like almost, the removing the effects that we we just wanted to put in their session, there's room for education and in that client to make sure they're slowly understanding a little bit more of the things that they're needing are the things that they need. Like, can they actually say that? Okay, I need this.
Yeah.
Right. We shouldn't be
like,
doing,
hey, this is taking me towards my goal.
Yeah.
I got one quick thought that popped up before we wrap it up. You were right. No shot this is going to be a 30-minute conversation. We could just keep going on this. We could just keep going on this forever. Hopefully, if you're still listening, you get some value. You're enjoying the conversation.
Hopefully.
But, all right, how many times have you heard this in the private sector? Right? Our clients who come in absolutely love us, but people who haven't come in yet don't know what we do. They have no idea what we do or how we're different. We just need to get people in the door and they're going to love it.
I haven't heard it be worded in that manner, but I see that. I see that a lot, and it's tough because it's like that whole social media game, right?
Yeah.
Let's put something first 10 seconds. We gotta catch somebody's eye, and then we'll educate. Like that's a game in itself.
Yeah.
But in that session, if that's all you do, I don't know. Like, what other ways can we start to change that? Like, I don't think that's the only way to get people in. But what are your thoughts when you see that and you hear that?
I think that's that. I feel like that's been like the story of my career. Like everywhere I've been, it's that. Whether it's corporate wellness, whether it's private sector strength and conditioning. I've never worked collegiate or anything like that, so I've only really spent time in the private sector. And that's been like the story of my career, right? And I think what that boils down to, again, is a positioning issue, right? Like if people don't know what you do, but the ones who come in love it and can sing the praises of what you do, then there's a misalignment there of understanding of what you do, how you're different, what value you could potentially provide. And some of it is because you might be going after the wrong clients who don't want what you have, which is fine, but you need to understand that and then find a way to go after your ideal client archetype, right? And then some of it might be you're explaining things in a way that doesn't make sense to them, or you're not explaining things clearly at all and showing why you're different, right? It's not that I think anymore, especially within the fitness industry, people's ideas of what training is, what exercise is, what gyms are, what classes are. I've kind of gotten insane. It's all over the place. Right. So I'm not just explaining what I do. I'm explaining what I do and how I'm different than X, Y, and Z. Right. So, in my time working in CrossFit gyms, it was not just explaining what we do, but it's explaining what we do and how we're distinctly different than the other 10 CrossFit gyms in our city. Right. And then that's not for everybody, but how can we get a large client base who understands what it is that we do, and we can provide value to this specific subset of the community. So I think for me that's what comes to mind is, at the simplest level, can we just clearly communicate, in their language, what we do, how we're different.
Yeah. Man, a lot of that thoughts come in my head now with when you're saying that, and going back to the corporate wellness space. Like you said, if we get back to that same number that you gave, 500 people in the gym, and I teach a class, I don't know, 15 spots.
Yeah.
I can fill 15 spots, right? But I don't think our goal should be like, can we get everybody and anybody?
That's it. Yep.
I think that's where we run into these issues of like almost our clients setting the expectations and not us. Like we're just trying to appease to everybody and everybody.
Yes.
And when you do that, you're appeasing to nobody, especially yourself.
Especially yourself.
Especially yourself. Goes back to branding. So I think being okay, like once you set the expectations, once you know like your training philosophy and what you believe in, and that's what you are consistent with in your sessions, people will buy into that.
Yeah.
They'll see your brand. They'll see that you call people by names. They see that you have a relationship with 20 people within the class, and a lot of their history, and you're able to help them. Like they see that, right? So, and if that's not something you value, and they're creating your expectations for you, you're going to be doing random stuff, right? And you're not going to be you. Like, who are you at the end of the day? So I think it's and especially in the corporate wellness space, like you got 15, 30 spots available. You can get 30 spots.
You can get 30 spots
by being you, like doing the things that you believe in, not trying to appease everybody. Like somebody leaves because I already set expectations and they didn't like those expectations. I'm sorry. Sorry I couldn't help you, but
hey, listen, bro. Listen, Brody. This class isn't what you want, but you know what? I gotta. We got in the group exercise studio, or we have you can get a discount on whatever booty boot camp class, whatever sort of Pilates, yoga. Like, hey, let's try that.
Yeah.
See if you see if you can be consistent with it. Because again, we can't be the right fit for everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's just the nature of the beast.
Right. Chasing your own tail. And one more thing before we kind of jump off here, but for me, what I started to understand closer, I'm still in the corporate wellness space, but for me, something that I understand for myself is like people know that I don't know them coming in. Like if they're new to class, I will not assume anything. I have no idea what you want, but I'll find out.
Yes.
Right. And I used to have that issue of assuming, oh, you just want to lose weight. You got 30 people, everybody wants to lose weight. Like, I don't know. I genuinely do not know what you want, but I will take some time to understand what that is. And that's when people start to come to my class. Like that's when people start trusting because I'm trying to help them. Like I'm not trying to, create a general assumption for everybody. I don't think people feel heard, appreciate, or valued in that sense. So I think just asking ourselves as a coach, both one-on-one, group setting, wherever it is, like what is your brand, right? How is your how do you set expectations and how do you create that consistency? Because like you said, like you can't please everybody.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's tough.
Dude, that tees up perfectly kind of like the general kind of final
walk away questions I had, or what, like, you know, in my perfect world, everyone listen, you walk away thinking about this stuff a little bit more deeply and really sort of pen to paper. You know, we're writing this stuff out and trying to, you know, get a little better every episode. When you talk about branding, like, do you understand your brand? Do you understand how you position yourself in the market? Like, do you understand who else are who are your competitors in the area? Like, we got to know. Even if you think they're dumb, your clients don't. You got to know. But do you actually know your clients' expectations of your class and then each individual session? Because it's easy to assume, like you said, it's easy to assume everyone's goal is weight loss. It's easy to assume every athlete's goal is bigger, faster, stronger. Like, it's easy to assume. But do you have the conversation? Do you know what their expectations are of the broader program? And then daily, do you set and understand your clients' expectations for each individual workout? Because again, all these expectations dictate their experiences, which lead to dictating their outcomes.
Way to wrap that up. That's plane has landed, in my opinion. I think great questions to leave this conversation with.
Shoot. I'm feeling kind of fired up, to be honest. I feel like that was I hope everyone else is as fired up as I am. But feeling good. I might just be really sweaty. This room gets hot as hell.
Haters all along. That's why
the sun's just beating me down. I might just be a little sweaty. I don't know. But damn. No, great convo. JT, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you if they have questions about setting expectations?
Man, find me on IG, CoachJT.mp3, and on Threads. Find me on there. I'm gonna say some random things that'll make you feel a certain type of way. What about you?
Setting expectations. You can find me on IG at Nashville. You can find the show on IG and YouTube and Threads at Pushin Performance. No G, baby. As always, if you're loving the show, please rate, subscribe, leave your boys a nice little review, share it with a friend, a colleague who you think can level up. Hit us in the DMs if you're liking the show, if you have questions, if you just want to chop it up. We're always open.
All above, please.
Please.
All right, y'all. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace. My